Hey everybody, how's it going? Happy Wednesday to y'all. We're just hanging out here at EVS, enjoying the beautiful sunny weather outside. It's about 80 degrees and sunny in Durham, North Carolina. So hope you got good weather where you are. Go ahead and dump in the comments section and say where you are, so I know who's here and what you're doing. We are going to be just kind of hanging out today. I'm going to be taking some questions from you guys. I was hoping to have Chuck Bontrager here for part 2 of just shooting the breeze like we did last week. But he got called into a meeting with the Moulin Rouge folks. Don't worry, he's cool. It's not that kind of meeting. The kind of meeting I usually got called into. Yeah, it's not like go to the principal's office, Mr. Bontrager. Yeah, we're just hanging out. So today I thought I might show you a couple of new fiddles that we got hanging out. I don't know if you guys have seen the Strickel violins. But this is one of those. These are made in Argentina. And we'll just play this a little bit. Anyway, these are fun to play. So each one of these got some different colors. This one's got the green and some wood. He's got one with white. He's got one with like an earth tone, and then there's one that's black, but the center of it's black too. And that thing is really hot. And I don't know where that one is right now, but that thing is really beautiful. The green bits are some sort of poly something. I don't know. It's like plastic. Maybe it's 3D printed. I don't know. It's pretty dope though. Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's a really sweet looking violin, and they sound fantastic. They've got starfish pickups on them. So yeah, like these Strickel violins a lot. Super cool. I will show you another violin that we just got in. This one I like a lot too. This one is a new ETJ 6-string that we got in. Love these fiddles. This is a really, really beautiful violin. Nice, nice, nice. What's up, Jason? Just got this new ETJ 6-string in here. You'd think I would have tuned this ahead of time, but no, didn't. Oh. Love, love, love 6-string violins. And these are kind of becoming, honestly, these are kind of becoming the standard among people who do sort of the improv rock violin thing. Yeah, and this is a really beautiful piece of wood too. Here's the back of it. Here's the side of it. Here's the top of it, the bottom of it. Anyway, it's ash wood. Is that what this is, Chris? Yeah. It's ash. If you burned it, it would also be ash, which is crazy. So, yep, the jack back here, volume knob, super lightweight, really pretty fiddle. Like this a lot. So yeah, we had some questions. What are some? Let's jump in here. Wow, this is like 5 questions. What is the cheapest, most expensive, and your favorite violin you have at the shop? Cheapest, I think, is probably the Yamaha YEV. So we sell more of these than anything, the Yamaha YEV. Really, really nice instruments. I think these are around $700 for the 4-string, maybe a little bit more for the 5. Most expensive, probably just pure dollar-wise, it's this guy. This is a one-off art piece that was made by Jeff Stratton. He's got a, that's upside down. He's made a number of like one-off art pieces. You can see this. It's got like the wavy flag thing like painted in, but it's also a 3D effect. Like the violin is actually waving like that, waving. That one is about $6,000, I think. The ETJ that I played is going to be really close to that price. And then my favorite one, well, I'm a Viper guy. I own 3 of them, and I have owned a total of 6 in my life. I've sold 3 of them as I went along. I don't think I've ever owned more than 3 at a time. But yeah, my personal favorite is the Viper, and that's just, it does what I need it to do. It is 100% the answer for me. I think it's the answer for a lot of people, but I don't think it's the answer for everybody. There is no universal answer in this thing. That's why all these different violins are here. We just had a crew in here today. Chuck, I don't know if you guys were here last week. Chuck Bontrager was here. He's in town for 2 weeks. He's going to be the first guy in the world to have a doctorate degree in electric violin, hopefully about a year from now. I think he's ABD at this point, all but dissertation. And he is currently on tour as an acoustic violinist, ironically, with the Moulin Rouge tour. He has done somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 Broadway productions in his career. He's on tour with Moulin Rouge right now. He brought in the cellist, and it turns out the one of the actresses who plays the lead part is also a violinist. So she came in today, and the 3 of them just absolutely ripped it up in here. And then we went and got some barbecue, and I'm about to fall asleep. So that's what's going on. Chuck actually had to run back to the theater. They had a quick meeting or something this afternoon. He couldn't come. He and I are both Viper guys. But all that to say that all these Moulin Rouge folks who came in today were playing all of these instruments. Chuck just did a review for us where he played, I think, 26 different violins, recorded each one of them for us. And we'll be able to have that video as soon as I get that edited. We'll have that up before long. And so, yeah, we'll have some video of Chuck playing all these instruments. And then today he came in and did a review of the acoustic electrics that we've got in the shop right now. So, yes. Okay, lots of questions. Sorry, I've been talking a lot, and you guys have been asking questions. So, answered Bob's question. Let's see, Mohammed, what are some good affordable pedals for e-violin? So, you got to use numbers. Affordable, I don't know what's affordable to you. To me, affordable is like under $1,000. I think we have a bunch of pedals. If you go on our website, electricviolinshop.com, if you're talking about multi-effect pedals, that's kind of the world that I live in. The Zoom A1X is around $150. Pretty good. I mean, really good pedal for the money. I have an HX Stomp that I really like by Line 6. That's about $600. I have a Helix Floor that I really like. That's about $1,600. The Boss ME80 is about $300. That's a really good pedal for that price. So I think we carry a number of different pedals that are all good for the price that they're at. The Zoom doesn't compare to the ME80. That's why they're two different prices. So people ask, well, how does a Zoom compare to a Helix? It doesn't. They're radically different prices because they're radically different pedals. But the Zoom is a great pedal for $150. It's not fair to compare it to a $1,500 pedal. Let's see, close up of the tuning pins. Oh, are you talking about the ETJ? Yeah, this is what's going on here. And these are Whitner fine tuners or geared pegs. So these are really cool. Yeah, this is a very cool instrument. I like this a lot. Ben Karras, who plays for Thank You Scientist, has a 5-string of this, and he's probably going to be really bummed out now that he sees a 6, because he's like, "Oh man, I wish I'd bought a 6." Yeah, Jay, you're right. 6 is, yeah, I think 6 is really becoming the standard, and I think it started with Tracy Silverman, and just how much you can do with a 6-string violin. If you think about it, a 6-string violin is essentially, it's a violin and an octave violin all in one. So, right? So you've got just your standard violin, but so you've got EADG, but then the next EADG down you also have. So I can play an octave below open G. So you could technically, actually, this is the way that I started getting used to playing a 6-string, was you take all your Suzuki tunes, right? Okay, so how am I going to play that? Just play it down an octave. You can take all your Suzuki tunes and just take them down an octave. It's different fingerings, and that's going to be a good way to get used to playing your 6-string violin. It's going to make you real familiar with the fingerboard on that. What else are people asking? Do a lot of fiddle players purchase from us? Yeah, absolutely. For my money, one of the best fiddle players alive is Ross Holmes. And he's a really good friend. He's out with Nitty Gritty Dirt Band right now. He shops here. Mark O'Connor's a good friend of ours. He, I don't know if he shopped much here, but we do talk a lot. See what other fiddle players. I mean, there's lots of. Anytime you got a country band that's got a fiddle player, Lars Thorson, who plays for Kane Brown, is a good friend. He shops here. Joseph Shackelford, who is out with Drake Milligan, he shops here. Yeah, some nasty good fiddle players. How many names am I thinking of? I'm just blanking because I'm about to go in a coma because I had a really huge lunch. Andy Reiner, fantastic fiddle player. He's a good friend of ours, shops here. Yes, lots of fiddle players shop here. I have a YEV 5-string. Yeah, honestly, the YEV, when we first got the first prototype of the YEV, it came in, we were blown away by how amazing that instrument was at the price that it was. I think at the time they were right at $600. And it was like, this is the best fiddle the world has seen at this price. And prices have gone up because, of course, prices have gone up. But I think in that price range, man, it is the fiddles that are at that $700 price range right now are the YEV, the NS Design Wave, I think is a little bit more than that. The Oro, where's the Oro? This fiddle right here, those three are super, super strong fiddles in that range. All a little bit different. I think if you're going to make a guitar comparison, you'd say that the YEV maybe sounds more like a Tele, sort of a clean, bright sound. The NS Design is maybe more like a PRS, a little more meaty. And then the Aura, I would say, is more kind of like a Stratocaster. So, people like each one of those for different reasons. Do we have a Viper in the shop right now? We don't have a Viper in the shop right now. There's a bit of a back order on those things. They are super high demand. They just had to move their shop. Um, I don't know if you guys know, they've lost 3 of the people working in their shop, like lost them. They died in the last 5 years. And it's a lot. And there was a global pandemic. You guys may have heard about that. And one of the guys that we lost just in the last year, the shop was at his house. And so obviously everything has had to move. So there's a new shop in New York now. I was just there a week or 2 ago, and things are ramping up. So we're hoping that backlog of Vipers starts shrinking pretty fast here. So I think, have a Viper Classic floating around somewhere or 2. We have 2 red Viper Classics right now. Viper Classics are available in red, black, and white, only fretless, only 4-string or 5-string, and only with the true tone pickup. So if you're interested in a red, white, or black 4 or 5-string fretless with a true tone pickup, those are now stock items. We do have 2 red Viper Classics in the shop right now, but the custom Vipers, no, those are one-off. Each one is handmade, and they come one at a time. Do the Vipers very much? They used to. They used to when they were purely handmade. Every single thing was done 100% by hand. They are now starting to do a little more batch production to help get this thing moving out a little faster. And they are going to vary a whole lot less than they used to. But yes, each of the 6 that I have had have been a little bit different. And that's one of the things I kind of like about them. Each one has their own personality. But if you do have one that you like it's got to be exactly like that. I've never been a person that had my fiddle had to be exactly like this or exactly like that. I'm just going to play it. If you're super, super, super picky about exactly the angles, it could have been a little frustrating because they did vary a little bit because they're handmade. But no, the starting now, they're going to vary a lot less. Yeah, Jay, a lot of the people that are asking these questions are asking on YouTube. So we're simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube. So a lot of these questions are coming in on YouTube. So this is a thing. And, I've been at this for 20 years. And the way you learn is by doing it. I don't know if you guys have checked Andy Reiner's podcast called The River of Suck. And the truth of the matter is, if anybody who's good at something started out bad at that thing. You don't start good at something. Nobody picks up something for the first time and they're just good at it right off the bat. You've got to suck at something before you can be good at it. And Andy talks about embracing the suck. And you got to cross the river of suck, which means you've got to be bad at it. And you got to keep being bad at it. And you got to be bad at it for a while before you start to get good at it. And then you eventually get better and better and better. And then at some point, you're going to be considered competent at that thing. But you know how you get good at something? By being bad at it for a while and just keep plugging away and trying to do more and better. So all of us that are, and I consider myself good at this, maybe I'm getting the big head, but I'm pretty decent at setting up effects on stuff, but I didn't start that way. It took a long time, and it's years and years and years and hours and hours and hours of just messing with it and listening to recordings of yourself and listening to recordings of other people and compare and contrast. And yeah, it's a process. So yeah, don't be bummed about that. Be big videos about electric violins, plugins, virtual amps, and effects. So yeah, I guess I could do that. I do a lot of that in the studio. I don't ever do it live. I do it in the studio. I guess unless you virtual amps and effects, the Helix is kind of that. I do all my recording into Helix Native. So I record my violin flat and dry, and then everything is done in post. So using Helix Native as my processor, and it's just the same brains that are inside the Helix pedal. I'm looking down because there's one on the floor. You can't see it, but I can. Ha ha ha. It's basically the same as the pedal, but it's in plug-in form. And that's really the only one I have a lot of experience with. There's some other folks who have more experience with different ones than I do. So I probably, I mean, not probably, I wouldn't be considered the expert on that. I would say, gosh, who are some people? Brando Jenkins has worked with a lot of those virtual effects. I think Raz has worked with a lot of that stuff. Helix Native is the only one I've got any time on. And it's just because I don't ever use my laptop live for that. I use my laptop for Ableton, but I don't use it for processing effects in a live situation. And that day is probably coming, maybe. But right now I use the Helix, and then Ableton's on the laptop, Helix is on the floor, and those two do talk to each other, but I don't want to combine them into one machine just yet. Let's see, what is this question? Oh my God, the question. Yes, is there an effects pedal that can make a solo violin sound like several strings at once? Yes and no. It depends on what you mean by that. If you mean that you want to hear an orchestra where all the parts are changing inside, it depends on what you mean by that. If you mean that you want to hear octaves and doublers and chorusing effect and all that, and sort of have things that are reminiscent of a big string section, yeah, all day long. You can do that with chorus pedals. You can do it with pitch shifters, octavers usually. There is Electro Harmonics makes a pedal called the S9 pedal that has 9, believe it or not, 9 different sort of string effects in there, string section effects. The Zoom A1 or A1X has a string and orchestra patch that's already built into it. They have like 5 or 6 presets that are made for electric violin. The Zoom A1, I've actually bought one, and it's about to go on my pedal board as soon as I get 5 free seconds to deal with it, which I don't have right now because I'm finishing up school. But yeah, there are several effects pedal, and over the years I have used different octaver pedals to do that exact same thing. Now, all that being said, if you want it to sound like sort of a octaves and all that, then yes. If you're hoping for harmonies, it's a lot harder. You can use an intelligent harmonizer and tell it that you want, a third below and a fifth below the note that you're playing or whatever. And I'm in the key of C, and it'll do all those things, and then maybe put doublers or something on there. That's one thing. But you got to use your head, because if you could end up sounding really bad if you make some bad decisions there. The other thing you can do is, if you're really good at playing double stops or triple stops, you can do that with your octavers, and you can get some more of string section type stuff. But there's no magic bullet that's going to make your one violin sound like an orchestra, because an orchestra has not only octaves going on, but other intervals. And sometimes maybe the first violins will be holding something, and second violins are moving, and violas are moving, contrary motion, all that kind of stuff. There's no pedal that can do all that. But there are some pedals that can make your violin sound like there's more than one person playing essentially the same note, but maybe in different octaves. Does that make sense? The difference between a cheap violin, electric violin for 70 euros and 170 or 300 euros. Yes, there is a difference between those. And it's how much money you will have spent to have a violin that isn't worth having. A 70 euro violin you're not gonna be able to play it. They're not worth owning. And a 170 euro violin is also probably not worth owning. If we're talking electric violins, we have not found anything that we're willing to stand behind for less than about $600 or $700. So about 600 or 700 euros. Anything less than that, they break, they sound bad, they're set up bad, they're just not good. There's sort of a price floor below which we just have not found any instruments that are worth buying. So the question is, how much money are you willing to throw away? So if you're willing to throw away 70 euros or you're willing to throw away 170 euros, either one's up to you. But just know that that's pretty much what you're doing. You could get lucky. Every now and then somebody be like, well, I got one for $200 and it plays great. Well, you got lucky. Because if you bought 10 of those, 9.5 of them would be hot garbage. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish there were some $300 violins that we felt good about because we could sell them by the boatload. I can't put my name on that. I wouldn't feel good about selling you. I feel like I was wasting your money. What's up, Romania? So this is a question we get a lot about these multi-effects pedals. Are they good with electric violin? Yes. Pretty much any multi-effects pedal is going to be okay with an electric violin. The question is, are you any good at programming them? I wouldn't ever use any of the presets that come in there. I'm playing a $1,500 Helix or whatever the price is. And all the presets in there sound like hot garbage. So you have to build your own. So if you buy a GX 100 or I think it's GT 100, right? You buy one of those, you're going to have to build your own presets. You buy a Helix, you're going to have to build your own presets. If you buy a ME80, you're going to have to build your own presets. And that's kind of understood. Is it going to work with electric violin? Yes, with the caveat that you're going to have to be able to program it. Yeah, Alexi, like I was saying, I don't, building cool sounds for home studio recordings and the stage. I treat those as two different animals. And actually the sound that I use on stage is not the same as the sound I use in the studio because those are two different environments. And I'm kind of aiming for two different things. I may eventually make a video about those plugins, but like I said, I would probably ask somebody else to do that. Somebody who's more of an expert on that sort of thing than I am. I would consider live tones and studio tones just different. I don't try to use one as the other. Does that make sense? Because they're just different. Live is different from studio. What is the best? Yeah, this is a crazy question. Best, there's no such thing as best. There's no such thing as best. That's kind of the first thing that you gotta wrap your mind around. It's the answer is, which one is your favorite is really the question. 4-string electric violin and quality of sound. Yeah, quality of sound is such a subjective thing that the one that sounds best to me may not sound best to you. I will say one that I've really been grooving on lately has been, and I just get disappointed when I pick up a 4-string violin. But yeah, the Forte Dio violins, I've been digging these lately. I cannot put these things down. When I start playing, the 6 strings feel amazing. This one is not in tune. But yeah, Forte Dio violins, I have really been digging on those lately. It's a tone I really like as a clean, dry tone. Let's see if we've got one nearby that is remotely in tune. Yeah, maybe. Let's see. I think this one Chuck was playing earlier, so it should be in tune. I dig these a lot. They're super smooth, like smooth and round and organic. And um, I mean, almost for me, they're almost too smooth. I like mine a little dirtier. But man, I think a lot of people, though, this tone is going to appeal to a lot of people. And they feel great. They sound great. They're priced really, really aggressively. Um, yeah, I think these are around $2,000. They're like these are great fiddles. These Forte Vio violins are really fantastic. Um, what are some other questions? Yeah, so I don't. There's no such thing as best. Zeta violins are freaking amazing. They feel great. They sound great, but it's a very different sound. It's it's a more aggressive sound for sure. More of a sort of an electric-y kind of sound. You listen to some of those old Jean-Luc Ponty recordings. That's what a Zeta sounds like. The Yamahas are great. The people who love them really, really love them. That's not my particular cup of tea. Is more of a fatter, wider sound. The Yamahas are thinner and brighter and more focused. I like mine different from that, but that's personal preference. Jordans sound amazing. I mean, all these violins are great, kind of in their own way. They're all different. That's why we have all these different ones. Dan Emmett, yeah, my good buddy Dan makes a violin. There's one of those hanging around here somewhere. Question about recording. I don't know. I can't read all that. Let's see. Recording Cantini into Fishman Mini plus a mic plus an interface. Okay. There's not a need of a preamp if you're going from a Cantini into a Fishman Loudbox. No. You can plug that violin straight into that amp. That is not how I record a violin, but there are plenty of people who do. Yeah, you can totally go Cantini into a Fishman. You can mic it and go into an interface. You can do that. What you have to be aware of is that mic is going to hear all the stuff that's happening in a room. And if that's the sound that you like, you want to hear that mic'd cabinet sound. And a lot of people really like that sound. Yeah, that's great. As far as the rules of thumb for gain and volume throughout all that. No, I don't have any rules of thumb for gain and volume. And the way I would sort of determine that is I would start with I would do some experiments. And here's how I would do that. I would write down I would probably do 10 passes, and I would vary the gain and the volume on the amp. And I would vary the gain on my microphone in order to compensate for that. And I would do maybe 10 passes. We're say I'm at, 9 o'clock I'm looking at a Fishman right now. Maybe 9 o'clock on the gain and 9 o'clock on volume. So very, very quiet, right? And then I'd have to gain up my microphone and all that to get the right level in my DAW. And I would listen to that. What does it sound like? And then I would put it at like 12 o'clock on both. And it's going to be loud as crap when you do that. So you'll have to turn down the gain on your microphone. And then I would go like dimed out. Like your neighbors are going to call and see if I like that sound better. And then sort of some combinations in between. So I've, gain all the way down, volume all the way down, or, way down. Sort of both of those in the middle, both of them pretty high, maybe with gain down but volume up, maybe with gain up but volume down. And that way, and you can't really tell in the room because you're comparing apples to oranges. Your ear, the way the human ear works is that if something is louder, it sounds better to you. And the way you change that is with your microphone gain, right? So if the amp is at 50 dB, you're going to have to turn your mic up to get a certain level in your DAW. But if your amp is running at 105 dB, you're going to have to turn that microphone down to get that same level in your DAW. The volume in your DAW now is going to be the same between those two trials, but the tone is going to be different. And so you'll just have to experiment to see which tone you like the best. It might turn out that you like the thing gained up real high, but the volume down sounds the best to you on tape. And the truth of the matter is, if that's what sounds best to you, then that's what's best for you. So I hope that makes sense. What is the difference between the ME80 and the Line 6? Is the Stomp worth double the amount of money? The Stomp is worth 4 times the amount of money if you really need customization of your effects. Example, reverbs. One of the most common effects that we use on violin is reverb. There are 3 different reverbs on the ME80. I think they're all in mono. They might be stereo, but I think they're mono reverbs. There are like 30 different reverbs in the Line 6, and they're all, most of them are stereo. And in the ME80, you have one knob that you can turn on reverb, and that is to make it louder or quieter. There's just 3 different, there's a room, a hall, and a spring reverb. But you can't control how long, you can't control how deep, you can't control EQ of that reverb, nothing. It's either a hall and you can turn it up or down. You got a spring, you can turn it up or down. Inside the Helix, for each of those probably 30 different reverbs, you have maybe 10 different parameters that you can change. You can change the pre-delay, you can change the treble, you can change the decay, you can change all the different things, damping, all the different features of that reverb or all the different parameters of that reverb, you can change. So is the Line 6 worth double the money? It's worth 4 times the money, no question. Assuming that you really, really, really want to get into the nitty-gritty details of exactly how those effects sound. There's one wah pedal on the ME80. There's like 12 in the Helix. And on the ME80, you have one parameter. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. On the Helix, you can change blend, you can change the starting and the stopping frequency, you can change the type of, wah. You can put it wherever you want in your signal chain. With the ME80, it's going to be at the same place in your signal chain every time. So yeah, the HX Stomp is like infinitely more powerful than the ME80. It's a little bit harder to program, but like way, 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 way more powerful than the ME80. Way more. Okay, after build or purchase fretting. I don't know of anybody who does that. I'm sure you could find somebody. You probably find a mandolin maker or somebody that would put frets on a violin that you already bought. Frettedviolins.com. According to Susie, Robert Gadberry does that. Here's where I would be a little nervous personally. I don't know Robert's work. I don't know anything about it. If I've got a fiddle that I like, you got to understand that adding frets changes that violin dramatically. The setup is going to be way, way different. The nut is going to have to be different. The bridge is going to have to be different. Neck angle might have to be different. So I don't know what all he does. I would just say be very cautious. I would be asking a lot of questions. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Jason on Facebook just linked a video with Hedra and a cloudburst. Apparently, yeah, I think Jay does a bunch of this stuff. Yeah, that's what you guys bug Jay about these, about all this software stuff. He's smart. And orchestra sound. Yeah. Jason has got a full orchestra sound. Yes, I did hear some of that, and it does. It sounds really good. So I hope yeah, you guys go check out Jason Owens. He's on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, you can pop over to Facebook, and there's a comment that he put in there. I can't share the link across to you guys. But yes, and he's worth following anyway. Go follow Jay Violin, Jay Violin. Yeah. What rosin works best with steel coil strings, mag pickups? Yeah, so you've got a Cantini. Again, there is no best. There's the word best. We need to just throw that out. It's a meaningless word. It's just kind of what you prefer. I know Chuck, who is a really good buddy of mine. He approaches rosin very differently than I do. He carries violin, viola, and cello rosin with him. He may even have some bass rosin. I use one. I use leatherwood rosin, and it sounds great to me. It does. They do sound different. Different rosins do sound different. I just use leatherwood. If you don't want to spend $100 a cake for rosin, then I would Magic rosin is a really good rosin that's pretty like cheap. It's 10 or $12 a cake, I think. What do I do differently in my sounds live in studio? Well, the biggest, yeah, and great question, Akiva. And if you guys don't follow Akiva, you really should, because he's a wicked good violinist and always has amazing tone. Live and studio are really different for me for a number of reasons. Live, like well over 100 dB most of the time. Like it's loud. Studio, generally people are not listening that loud. You know, we're listening to that stuff in the studio, maybe 70 or 80 dB. People at home are listening at maybe 70 or 80 dB. So I don't know what you guys know about the Fletcher-Munson curve, but it has to do with how the human ear hears sound at different volumes. For my live sound, I'm dialing that in to be listened to really freaking loud on big PA. Dual 18 subs, dual 15 and a horn tops, loud. Drummers smashing and splashing. So I set my sounds up to be listened to very, very loud. In a studio setting, we've got to try to get that perceived loudness without having actual loudness. So I want it to sound loud even if it's not. Right? Because people listen on their AirPods or whatever you kids are listening to music on. And so you're listening on these things and you're probably going to be listening to it at about 75 or 80 dB. It's not very loud. My personal tone, I like to be pretty angry. I like to break stuff. So I want it to have a high perceived loudness, which means it's going to have a little more sizzle in it. It's going to have more of that 3 or 4K in it. In a room where I'm playing live, I'm going to pull a lot of that 3 or 4K out because the room is so loud that you're hearing 3 or 4K better than you do at low volumes. Now that's backwards. You hear 3 to 4K really, really well. But I want my low volume stuff to sound like it's loud even though it's not. And the loud volume stuff, it is loud. And so I'm trying to keep perceived loudness down. Does that make more sense? My studio stuff, I want perceived loudness to be higher than actual loudness. And in a live setting, I want my perceived volume to be lower than actual volume. Oh yeah, some great questions in here. How to balance, oh yeah, great question. How to balance higher strings, lower strings so they're not lost. Bassy, boomy mix. And you're saying that your low strings are getting lost in that bassy, boomy mix? Yeah. So high pass filter is going to be your friend. You can, if you're a 4-string violinist, you can high pass your violin at 2 or 250 hertz. I would run up the high pass. Here's what I do as an engineer. We get going in the mix, right? I want to hear everything going at once. I'm going to run up the high pass on the violin until it starts to sound like it's coming through an AM radio. Some of you kids don't know what that is. It's coming through, so it sounds like it's coming through a telephone speaker. It gets, it's like, it's going to sound real small and tinny. And then back that thing off a little bit to get a little bit of meat back in there. But the high pass filter is going to get all that kind of mud out of the bottom, and it's going to focus the energy, the sonic energy on the higher frequencies, which are cutting through, so they don't get lost. I run a high pass when I'm engineering. I run a high pass on everything, including the kick, including the bass. The only thing I'm sometimes don't run a high pass on a sub bass. Like if there's a, coming in through Ableton or something, there's 808s and all that. I don't generally high pass those unless, as a matter of course, if they're starting to get away from me, I will. But everything else, I high pass as a matter of course. It's kind of like salting your food before you taste it. It's like you shouldn't salt your food before you taste it. I put a high pass on everything in a mix. It's just, where do I put it? I have to listen to it to decide where I'm going to put it. But I am 100% putting a high pass on everything in my mix, maybe with the exception of some 808s. So I would say the high pass filter is probably your friend for helping to balance your strings in a mix. I don't know what this means. Where can we buy those things that Chuck wears Viper? Are you talking about the like the thing that he's putting on to kill the sound on a string? It's just a bandana. If you have to blow your nose, grab the thing you're going to blow your nose with. Don't blow your nose and put it on the violin. Do we have silent cellos? We do. I can see them. You can't. They're right over there on our website. So we have silent cello means this silent cello is a Yamaha trademark. So we do have Yamaha cellos. We also have other electric cellos, which happen to be equally silent. You just can't call them that because it's not a registered trademark. NS Design, 3D Various, Yamaha, Aurora, Zeta. We don't have Auroras or Zetas in stock right now, but we do carry those. Yes. Do I use a different bow with 6 or 7 string violins? Great question. I do not use a viola bow. A lot of people talk about using a viola bow. No, I don't like using a viola bow because a viola bow drives like a truck. And I don't like that. I like a bow that's really responsive, and I can do things that viola players don't usually do. And I'm not telling viola jokes. That's not a thing around here. But no, I want one that's more nimble and faster and more responsive. Viola bows tend to not be as responsive as violin bows. I use either a Kodabow Jewel, which is designed for extended range violins, or I have an Arcus P6 as well. That the Arcus moves those low strings just as easy as the Jewel does. So yes, I do use a different bow. Yeah, either an Arcus or a Kodabow Jewel. What's the next question? Owning more than one violin is okay. Yeah, I think once you get to 50, though, I think that's okay too. Yeah, 50 is good. Awesome. I'm glad that was helpful. What's up, Liam? Howdy. And yeah, so if you come over to Facebook, Jason's got that link over there for you guys if you want to see that. Do we have horror electric violins? We do not. Is it primarily an EQ difference? Akiva's asking about studio versus live. So I start from scratch each time. So if I'm building my effects for live, I kind of start from scratch and I just keep turning knobs until it sounds good. And it's the same thing in the studio. I just kind of start from scratch and build it until it sounds right to me. But I'm listening on very, very different PA. So if I'm sitting listening to studio monitors, I'm going to keep turning knobs until it sounds good. And if I'm doing this live, I'm going to keep turning knobs until it sounds good. And what I found is if I try to compare those two sounds, like my distortion tone, they're going to sound really different because they were built for different purposes in different rooms on different speakers. So I don't build one and then try to take it to the other, if that makes sense. What's up, Nacho? Awesome. Yeah, so he's one of the students at NJCU, New Jersey City University. It's Martha Mook's program up in New Jersey. I was just up there the other day to hang out with them. What amazing, amazing players they have. If you are interested in pursuing a degree program that really values a lot of different styles, and you're taking lessons from Martha Mook and Joe Denizone and Regina Carter and all these amazing, amazing players, Jeremy Cattell, ridiculously good players, and you're 15 minutes from New York. It's a great program. Yeah, highly recommend. What headphone brand do I suggest for silent practice? I don't have a headphone brand that I recommend for silent practice. It's I have a set of Denon studio headphones that my wife got me as a gift. They sound amazing. I think they were $700 or something. For $700, they ought to sound amazing. Yeah, I don't have one that I recommend, honestly. And for practice, I'm not, nobody's listening to this but me. Something for probably $30 to $50 is going to be good enough for that. Yeah, if I'm doing silent practice into headphones, I really just kind of want to more or less hear myself. I'm not going to get super uptight about exactly all the nuances of my tone. I'm really more listening to my playing than anything. I'd say a $50 set of over-ear closed back headphones would probably be, more than sufficient. Nacho, yeah. So how important do I consider production, recording, live education? Essential. I would consider essential in modern string teaching. There are so many players out there, even players who only play acoustic violin, who don't know jack crap about how to record their instrument. They don't know how to play in a live setting. And in most of these live settings, you're going to have to amplify one way or the other. Anytime somebody has the ability to change the way my violin sounds, I want to understand what they're doing. If it's, the guy placing the mic on there, or the woman behind the board, or the monitor engineer, I want to understand what you're doing, so that if I'm hearing something that didn't lighten my fire, I want to help you make that something that does light my fire. Or if I hear something I really like oh my God, that's the greatest my violin has ever sounded. How did you do that? So that I can communicate that to the next person that I talk to. I've never understood how people could not care how their instrument sounds. I mean, it sounds good under my ear. I'm doing what I can do. Yeah, but that's not what everybody else hears. Nobody else in the world hears what you're hearing. They're hearing what's coming out of a set of speakers. And if you don't know how to get your sound from there to those speakers, then you're depending on people that you may or may not trust to do that work for you. So yes, you should 100% know how to record your instrument, how to amplify your instrument, because your instrument is going to be recorded, is going to be amplified. And either you can do that work, or somebody that you don't know and don't trust is going to do that work. So that's up to you. How would I start pushing it in schools? I'd start recording people. Yeah, I think recording yourself is one of the best things you can do for your playing. Nothing is going to make you better faster than recording yourself and critiquing those recordings. And I think once you start listening to yourself recorded, you're going to start getting interested in how that's done. So one of the ways I would push a knowledge of that is I would encourage my students to record themselves and listen to those recordings. And it's going to do two things. It's going to make them interested in that process, and it's going to make them better players really fast. Dude, that's the $1 million question. I don't know. I don't know. I wish they would have not have discontinued those. Yeah. I've been banging on them to make those strings. They don't seem to want to. So, yeah. Any aftermarket Viper strap vendors? I don't know of any. Viper strap is basically just a short guitar strap. So, if you wanted to get one custom made, that would kind of be the thing that I would do. Um, would be yeah, to get a custom made strap and just get the measurement that you need and all that. What's up, Jeremy? Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. I'm looking forward to having you guys here at the shop. What are my thoughts on carbon clang and Lewis and Clark carbon fiber violins? I have not played the carbon clang. I have played a Lewis and Clark, and I was not impressed. It sounded plastic to me, and I know they cost like the earth. Um, and I've been way more impressed with Lewis and Clark cellos. There are some really, really fantastic sounding Lewis and Clark cellos out there. Their violins, I don't think they sound good. They don't sound good to me. The Glasser violins are like a tenth of the price, and they sound a lot better to me. But everybody's ear is different. I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, you Neanderthal! How could you possibly think that sounds better?" I do. So this is the thing, yeah, Akiva, building sounds, and you do a great job. You do make good ones. You hate doing it, ear fatigue. Yeah, the more you do it, the faster you get, and the faster you get, the better your results going to be. And it's ear fatigue is totally a thing. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, if you can do it quickly, if you can dial in a tone in about 10 minutes, it's going to be better because your ears actually start to normalize what they're hearing. So if I've been listening to this really shrill sound for a long time, after half an hour of listening to that really shrill sound, it's going to sound great to me. And then if I hear a good sound after that, I'm going to, oh, that's muddy and right. So doing it fast is the key. And then having a reference is the other key. Having a reference sound that you really like. Maybe you really like Eric Johnson's guitar tone, and if you don't, something's wrong with you. But if you really like that tone, you're not gonna be able to nail that on a violin because it's a different instrument, but you can maybe capture that ethos. And so maybe listen to his tone and then go back to your tone and having a reference tone. And there's enough great electric violin tones out there now that you can just go listen to. A Hayden Vatera has a great tone. Raz has a great tone. Some more people we've talked about. Ben Karras has a great tone. You can go listen to those guys and listen to one of their recordings and then listen to the tone you're dialing in and go, oh yeah, I'm not there yet. And that's a way to combat ear fatigue is to have a reference to listen to. Oh yeah, my God. Yeah. If you're doing it for many hours, yeah, you're sunk. Yeah. If you're working on something to me, if you're working on something for more than about 15 minutes, you're probably screwed because your ears just can't. Yeah. They'll normalize things and you end up chasing a ghost. So, that's why I like using a reference. And if I take a preset, I will save the original preset and then I will start working on the other one. And about every 5 or 10 minutes, I'll switch back. Let's listen to the original. Does this new one actually sound better? No, then I was going the wrong way, right? So, yeah, I never ever work on a tone for more than about 10 minutes without either finishing or going back to our reference. Um, yeah, man. Obviously, shout out to everybody who's made it here. If you can get here, highly recommend. Yeah, and that was a great question, guys. Um, does EVS plan to sell those violin strap harnesses? I don't know what that means. Which strap harness are you talking about, Alexi? Um, yeah. The reference tone is the way to go. And yeah, I've done this long enough to kind of know like I kind of know if I'm recording a song, I kind of know what type of tone I'm looking for. And so I'll know immediately which amp model, because I do all this in Helix Native. I'll know which amp model I want to use, or I've got it narrowed down to 2 or 3, and I kind of listen to 2 or 3 of them and go, no, no, yes, that's the amp model. And once I pick the amp model, then it's just kind of trying to dial it in. And it's always, I'm going to record my part, and I try to get a halfway decent take with the tone that's, I don't know, 50% there where I'm trying to get. It's good enough tone that I know that that take is a good take. And then I will just put that on loop. And so that I'm dialing in stuff not at the same time I'm playing. And you can do it way faster that way. And then also try to do it at a variety of volumes too. You know, I'll maybe make one pass where it's sort of medium loud in the room, and then I'll turn it down a little bit. And if it sounds like radically different, then that's probably not a good tone. So yeah. What's the difference between amp models? Oh my God, night and day. Yeah. So if you have not, if you've got GarageBand or something on your computer, there are a bunch of free amp models in there. Yeah, it is absolutely night and day. It's the difference between amplifiers is at least as big as the difference between violins. You know, if you listen to violins, you go, oh, these sound really different. The amps are at least as different. So yeah, and then here's the worst part. You got to find the right instrument, and you got to find the right amp, and you got to find the right effects, and you have to find the right speaker cab, because the speaker cab also makes a very huge difference. And you have to find the right microphone. So the instrument, the amp model, the speaker cab model, and then the virtual microphone, all those make a huge difference on what your overall tone is. And then where that virtual microphone is it pressed up against the cab? Is it 8 inches away? Is it off center? Is it a 45-degree angle? All of those things affect your volume or affect your tone like a lot. So yeah, it's a process, and you kind of want to learn how to do it pretty fast so that your ears don't get normalized or they don't get fatigued. Oh, Tracy's violin. No, I don't think we have any plans to like go after that as a market. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to sort of have, if you're talking about the straps on Tracy Silverman's violin. Yeah, and then you'd have to have like the buttons on the violin to put the thing on. Some violins have them, some violins don't. I mean, that's never going to be more than like 0.01% of our business. So, yeah, probably not going to invest a whole lot of energy in that. That's going to be more thing like each person is going to be super different on that too. I think that's going to be super, super personal. Each person is going to have to kind of check that out. Do I build my live presets at gig volume? Not anymore as much. I used to because I didn't know how to do it. But now that I've got reference points, I've got live presets that I really like. So if I'm trying to vary, I'm trying to maybe build a new one, I can use my other presets as reference points in my house. Like, yeah, if I was playing a gig volume in my house, somebody would call the cops. But I can get pretty loud in my house. I don't like to do that for very long. And it wouldn't be on the same, like I would have to set up my little PA and it wouldn't, you know, it doesn't sound the same as like a big touring PA does. So no, I have enough reference from the stuff that I've made over the years to know. I've done this long enough to kind of know what I'm shooting for at a lower volume. And then when I get to the gig, I can usually sort of tweak it during a sound check or something. And you have to learn your gear well enough to know, hey, I'm going to have about 5 minutes at the gig to tweak this thing. Play it, listen. Okay, I know what to tweak. Tweak, tweak, tweak. Listen again. Okay, there it is. I'm good to go. Great questions, guys. I'm going to actually sign off here in a minute. I need to get home. But what will my dream violin be? I have it. Yeah, it's the Viper. I have it. So I'm lucky. I discovered my dream violin in like 1996. So yeah, kind of hit the lotto. And it was my first try. I bought my first Viper pretty much sight unseen. It landed on my door like on a Wednesday or something, and when I left for tour on Friday, I didn't take anything else. So, and I haven't looked back. It's been that and only that ever since. So I got lucky. Hopefully you will be equally lucky when you're looking for stuff. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. I got a jet. I got an electrician at my house with wires and stuff all over the place. So I got a bolt. In fact, he's calling me right now. So, hey, you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next week.